That's right. I didn't even know where it was. You guys are. How are you? Good.
How's everything? How's life? Started a new job recently.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I was gonna say no one heard of us, but so we do stuff basically location services for cell carriers. So we what was it called? Like all the Verizon stuff and Sprint, where's my family and stuff.
Oh wow.
Never mind. Yeah, he's on. It's all. Yeah, no, so we also just got bought by ABG last year, so we're starting to do more of our systems. Not here though. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's there.
I'm excited.
That's there. Yeah. Kind of jumped around a little bit, right? Okay. All right. How's that going?
It's crazy, yo.
Yeah, right.
It's hot down there.
I can imagine. Yeah.
It's nice to get the nice little breeze and you can check out.
Yeah.
No, it's just hot. It's just hot. It's about 68 with fog rolling in everything around, you know. I wake up and it's like 50 and I'm like, oh, I'm in the park, it's 93. Might as well be like 140.
I read your stuff at like community from Pleasanton to Emerald. It's like 100 in Pleasanton. I get out to Emerald. It's like, oh, it's like 66 out here.
Are you listening? Or are you? It's like a song. No, I was going to say.
Exactly.
If you're driving, oh, crazy. I drove one day. Made that mistake once. And I was just like, oh, no, freaking where? He didn't warn you? He didn't warn you?
No, I told him. He was his first day when he was like, well, I don't have my dad. I'm like, just go. He's like, he was sure.
That's what you get. We all have one. Just go in there and be like, hey, look, Mike told me to come.
Don't you guys have like a rooftop garden now you can chill in?
Actually, that's really nice up there.
It is. The wind goes up. Yeah. It's like the buildings are like water, like a little bit.
Yeah.
The building, of course, decided like 43.
No. Mark is
Very
he's a big
so 40 inside. It's like 140 outside. Yeah. Also, sadness. Weather. When you get home and it's dark, it's just like, well, here we go. Thanks, nature. That's
Oh yeah, anytime you want. Okay, so it's not that I get free advertising. I get $250 a month. And depending on how long you want to advertise, usually it's only like $5. They'll still give you a couple of thousand views. Okay. Oh, well no, what I mean is you should still go. Just tell me when you do, and I'll go check the button and say, make sure everyone sees it. So we have to be an admin on the page.
because like I also didn't see it.
We just take turns.
We get to take turns. Sick folks is this? What's the
Shit's good.
Like on IRC, they make funny robots. The name of the medium.
never understood.
Oh, nice. I like those.
Yeah, that's like well,
Never got into it.
you guys put your hair How are you? Covering your voice? Massage. I love sheep. That was one of the first racks my kids ever. Hey, how's it going? Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, yeah, oh, that's right. I remember you saying. Oh, I was just talking to your yeah. Like, it's actually yeah, no, let's just call it this anytime just a big passion community.
I got my hiring very cool.
Well, thanks for attending. Also, thanks for hosting. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I get it. There you go. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Awesome. We're up to 17,000 now. Yeah, max. Well, they don't on that one-on-one, so that kind of gives you like it's probably about a contract. That's your yeah, and they were telling me, I was like, well, it sucks because even if you have one, you still have to have all that administrative, so you'll never
So is someone doing an internship right now? You're gonna do it? Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And absolutely thank you, Yelp, for hosting us. Very, very nice facility here. So, first up, we're going to Brian from Yelp. Come and say a few words about this awesome company that we all use. Here you go.
Hey everyone, apparently I have 15 minutes to talk, but I was prepared for about 1 minute, so here we go. Welcome to Yelp, glad to have you all here. So today we've got two great speakers lined up for you. First we have Ivan, who is the security manager at Yelp, who's going to be talking about an open source forensics tool for OS X that we have, which is really great. I'm excited for you guys to all see that cool product that was developed here. A couple other notes that are not on this schedule here. We have a meetup again here on the 25th about ads, so if you're interested in that, you should check it out. Come find a Yelper and they can give you more information about that if you want. And of course, we're hiring. I hear you all are Mac users, you like Macs. We also use Macs, so it seems like a good fit. You should come work for us, something like that. Awesome, and yeah, so that's about my 1 minute now, so I'll go ahead and give it over to Ivan, who's going to talk about OS X Collector.
All right. This is just you did it all here. Here. Come set it up. Yes. Oh. There you go. Show my slides. And some picture. There you go. Thanks. Picture came in handy, huh?
Yeah.
It's almost happening.
Oh, I'm gonna keep showing my slides.
You're gonna read the magic sauce. Hey everybody, we're good? Audio, video, you can hear me, you can see me? That's me. Not, the dog is the dog I watch on The Office, but that's me, Ivan, and we're here to talk about OSX Collector. So OSX Collector is an automated forensic evidence collection and analysis toolkit for OS X that we built here at Yelp. So what are we doing here? Agenda for the talk. Who am I? So you can believe some of what I said. What problems are we trying to solve? Why do we go down a forensic collection route? Then more about forensic analysis. And then at the end, you'll all think, wow, that was wonderful. Let's clap for that guy. At least that's what I was hoping. So who am I? Yeah, I lead the engineering security team here at Yelp. So we work both in the application and product side, as well as our infrastructure and corporate side, doing product stuff and infrastructure stuff and incident response and detection and all sorts of good stuff on the security side. Pretty much if it says security, we'll end up putting our fingers into it. In the past, I managed our mobile team here at Yelp and our internationalization team, but you know, that was all in the past. So my real job is to protect this. So yes, it says careers and you should go to careers and apply, but the real thing that you should think about is like, okay, it's actually 31 locales that we operate in. It's like 73 million mobile users, thousands of employees, and thousands of employees is really what it comes down to. And that's what we're trying to protect with these tools. So lots and lots of countries, lots and lots of users, and lots of employees, all using Macs, all getting pwned sometimes. So let's talk about that a little bit. So what's our problem? My problem. So this is sort of typical diagram of a corporate network as far as security guys look at it and see it. It's like, cool, that's what our network looks like, yeah. Right? And then like if we add the security to it, it's like stuff's going on all the time. This was sort of our life, right? It's like, hey, suspicious callouts to network hosts and new admin accounts created and malware and unknown kernel extensions. And so sort of we have instrumentation on our endpoints. We run a variety of things, and they sort of tell us, hey, bad stuff is happening, or happened, or it's probably happening, or might be happening. And then we sort of just get this map, and it's like, on fire, the Death Star's on fire. I don't protect the Death Star, that was a bad analogy. But that's what we're up to. So we were sort of in this world, and it was like, wow, that's pretty scary as we instrumented our endpoints. So OSX, it has malware. And so OSX Collector, that's why we built it, because we found a lot of malware. InfoSec Taylor Swift and InfoSec Barbie, it's good stuff. Yeah, so people ask a lot, OS X malware, gee, I haven't heard of that. Isn't it just Windows malware? No, that's not the case. No, it's all over OS X. You should look around in your infrastructure, because it's there. Yeah, so we wanted to prevent malware at Yelp. We thought, hey, malware is bad, let's not do that. And so we needed a tool to help us with that. So you can't really prevent malware until you figure out where it came from. And like you can get a nice threat button map of where threats are coming, but none of this works. So like we just need to figure out where did malware come from. So we got a bunch of people together in the security team, and we built something. This is actually not us building it. This is a hackathon, but it's kind of, don't you wish you could build stuff like that? Just line everybody up and build stuff. Hey, we're done, cool guys. Didn't work that way. So in the talk, we'll give some free malware prevention tips. This is the first one, right? Enable click to play for Flash and Java. I think last month, all the browsers finally just did this by default. Maybe, maybe not, that's what he knows. I don't actually know anymore. But if you do that, lots of malware goes away. It's a good idea. So let's get down to the meat of it, forensics collection. So we have all these detectors on devices. They fire and they say like, hey, something bad happened, man. What are you gonna do about it? We're like, we don't know. So we built this, an open source forensic evidence collection analysis toolkit. So here's the deal. I'm incredibly vain. Ivan is in fact an anagram of vain. If you like the talk, you should go and star our project on GitHub. If you don't like it, we gave you free beer and pizza. Your favorite. Star the project on GitHub. Like that's all I'm asking for. If you actually like it a lot, you could like go download it, use it. Just to show of hands, anybody who's actually used the project at this point? 10 people. I like this. Thank you to all of you. If you send me an email, tell me that it doesn't work or something, I'll still be delighted. It does work though, so don't worry about it. It's really easy to use even. So that was a big goal. Like you're gonna do collection of data on an endpoint that has malware. So like user brings their laptop to the help desk and they go, yeah, I have malware, I have the Stuxnet virus, what do I do? And it's like, oh, that's too bad, we need to fix that. So we want to do something really easy to get all our forensics data off this machine. So OS X Collector is a single Python script. It has no dependencies that need to be installed. You just need to copy this one Python script. Maybe on a USB drive. Maybe the drive has malware. Maybe from the network. Maybe the network will be affected. But however you figure out to get the thing on there, bootstrap problem, you just need to run it, and that's it, right? And then it collects a lot of lines of data. So everything it collects is data. This is the data collection phase. It's really easy. And everything it collects into JSON files. I actually think JSON is sort of like beautiful. If you've ever been to like JSON.org and there's like that visual BNF chart on the right-hand side, I've seen it. I think it's very nice. I think JSON's really nice. It's really easy to manipulate. And so this is like one line of output, right? So we saw like, hey, we wrote 35,000 lines of output. This would be an example of one line of output, sort of describing a single kernel extension or plist or something. Yeah, plist stuff about your eyesight camera. And there's lots of information about it. So we'll talk a bit about like what information do we want to know. So our goal is like get rid of malware. We're going to collect a bunch of information. Might seem like a lot of stretch, but this is going to solve our problems for us. So OS X stores lots of data in SQLite databases. You're probably all familiar with SQLite. You probably don't know. I didn't know until I made this. SQLite's motto is small, fast, reliable. Choose any three. Holy, yeah. No, that wouldn't have been what I had made up for the motto. But I'm more ambivalent about SQLite. But Python loves it. This is real Python code, more or less stolen from OS X Collector, that actually dumps a SQLite table and dumps like all the data in the table as key value pairs. So it's like, you know, it's not that hard. Select everything from the thing, and then, you know, list the tables, select everything from each table, and dump everything into a dictionary. Yeah, cool. So it's pretty easy to deal with. And so OS X Collector, the code is very simple. If you find a bug, you can make an issue and say there's an issue on GitHub, or you can just fix it, because the code's easy. And then the other thing that OS X stores lots of data in isplists. So SQLite databases and plists are sort of like the registry for OS X, if you take a Windows analogy, right? You probably don't know this because it's like a Mac group. But the difference is they're scattered all over the entire hard drive. So OS X Collector tries to find them all. Plists are pretty similar, right? There's a bunch of different formats, JSON-like, Enterprise XML-y, whatever you want, but it's just data in files, and OS X Collector is really good at reading them, and that works great for us. So in building this, the goal was, hey, have something really simple, and we can just put it in a machine, any machine, it works right away, no big deal. And so it turns out that like it's really easy to deal with plists on OS X. So even in Python, there's this cool library, Foundation, that wraps Objective-C. So you can make system calls on OS X using Foundation. And if you look, if you're familiar with Objective-C, then you're familiar with having unusually and unnecessarily long function names. And Foundation is just exposing that to Python. And you see these unusually, unnecessarily long function names, but it's pretty easy to deal with. So once we figured this out, it was like, cool, game on. We'll definitely write this in Python because we write everything in Python and because it's easy to run. Then there's a couple of things, right, where you go, oh, Foundation doesn't expose it, but I really want to make this system call. I want to do something to the operating system. And so then it turns out if you want, you can like pretty much just write Objective-C in Python, which you don't want to do necessarily, but when you do, it's totally possible. So there's this Obj-C and C-type libraries in Python that let you do this. And so like this code here basically maps to this line of Objective-C over here. But that meant that we could basically do anything, which is what I said before and was lying, but now I'm saying now and more or less telling the truth. So we're able to collect lots of data, kind of however we want, making system calls, parsing files, whatever we're gonna do. So what do we collect? This is sort of a list of things that we collect, right? System info from the OS, info about kernel extensions, what have you downloaded, what applications are installed, what are the quarantines, startup items, browser info, email info, groups and accounts. It's a lot of stuff. Thousands of lines of stuff. I read this to you unnecessarily, you can read it yourself. But we'll talk about what they are and then it'll be a little more interesting. So this is like a basic file. Like any regular file that we find, we'll start to collect this kind of info, right? So like downloads, kernel extensions, installed files, I don't know, launch daemons, whatever, we'll collect a bunch of information. So like, we want to kind of know what is this, it's a kernel extension, and you know, what are the file paths, here's a file path, right? What are the hashes, what are the times, who's it signed by? Whatever files we get, we're going to do the same kind of stuff to them. So like, times are really important. On OS X, there's probably about 9 ways to represent time in different SQLite databases, and the browser's represented, and the OS represents it like 7 different ways, because why the hell not? So OS X Collector normalizes date and time to very normalized stuff, which is very helpful. We'll see later. Back to this. Hashes are really important. So hashes for files, if 2 files have the same hash, they're probably the same file. That might be useful. If you found a bad file, you could go look for it across the rest of your machines with this hash. You know, people are really not into hashes anymore. They go like, oh, antivirus uses hashes and it's totally dead and doesn't work. Hashes work, they're defense in depth. If you have a hash and it matches, you win. If you don't have a hash and it doesn't match, that's okay, we can keep going. So what other kinds of information are we collecting? Quarantines. Quarantines are cool. So you know when you download something and it's like, you downloaded a program off the internet. Is that okay with you? It's like, that's why I did it. But that information is actually saved in a plist. So every one of those that you've done before now is all in a plist. It's this plist. Preferences, com.apple.launchservices.quarantine events v2. And it basically just says this is all the junk that it uses to make these dialogues. So that's super useful, right? Like when a user downloads like freehockey.dmg and installs it, they probably download it and it creates a quarantine item. And if you were looking to see what has this user done lately, and they were like, they downloaded hockeysportsbet.dmg or something, you would see it here and you'd think, oh, I bet that's not good. Right, in this case, it's very benign. It's me downloading Alfred, which is like something nice. So let's talk about startup items. So there's a lot of ways to get stuff to run on boot in OS X. You probably know lots and lots of them. Launch daemons, startup daemons, all sorts of good stuff. So OS X Collector goes through all sorts of different things, I don't know, 10, 12 different ways that apps persist and launch at boot, and tries to enumerate what's installed on a machine. So when malware starts at boot, launches at boot, that's like game over, right? So generally when we see infections on machines, we will see that they've persisted in some way, so that on boot, before you even get a login screen, they go and hit the internet for updates or commands or control, right? That's really common, not just in like super advanced malware or Trojans, but nowadays even in adware and sort of more benign stuff. So it's like, oh, that's bad. So you really don't want startup items to be malware, which is kind of interesting. So here's a cool digression. Like you think, okay, hey, operating system, prevent malware from me. That'd be great. And there's this cool thing where on OS X, it has signature checking for malware, or sorry, for binaries. So if binaries are signed, then OS X will actually check the signature of those binaries against the rules encoded in the binary about how the signature should be checked. But if the binary is not signed, and if those rules don't match how the binary is signed, then it'll be like, oh, I'm not going to run you, you're obviously bad. But if binaries aren't signed, it turns out it just runs them, because whatever. So if you're making malware, what you do is you remove the signatures from things. It's interesting. We actually haven't seen any signature chain attacks, but I don't know. It'd be fun if we did one day. So another malware prevention technique: always use an ad blocker. Pretty much, like we put ad blockers in, and all this malware went away. It was really cool. What's my next slide? Oh, let's go back for a sec. Yeah. So what other stuff are we collecting? Kernel extensions, right? Kernel extensions are like your drivers in Windows. This is stuff that runs in a privileged mode. All the downloads in your downloads folder, we want to know all of those. Turns out there's some really cool properties in the OS X file system. It actually tracks on downloads generally. It adds metadata to the file saying this file was downloaded from here. There's a tool called, I think, xadder or something on the command line. You can run it and it'll like list out for you like all the extended attributes of a file, including like where did it get downloaded from, which is usually pretty easy to figure out once you read it. All the applications that are installed, there's also an install list. So there's a plist, kind of like quarantines, that tracks everything you've ever installed. So install something, uninstall it, who cares? It's still there, right? All your browser history info, just everything about what went on in the browsers is sort of pull it all out. If you're using email clients, built-in email clients, we get all that information, and all the user groups and accounts, all that good stuff. So a bunch of data gets collected, right? And this is the collection phase. If you were doing this by hand, you'd be bored out of your mind. But the tool just sort of runs and does it for you in one command. It's easy. And then sort of the fun part, forensic analysis. Hi.
Hi, how long does it take to run?
It depends on how much data there is on your machine. If a machine is brand new or something, I think it takes maybe a minute or two. If a machine is several years old and no one's ever deleted the browser cache or history and stuff like that, it can take over an hour. So it really depends on how much data it's crunching through. The speed of the machine, because it's running on the host generally. You can actually image a drive and use a mounted image drive. It works great, but we don't generally do that. So it's really variable in time. Any more questions about forensic collection? Analysis is the cool part. Yeah, forensic analysis is the fun part. Like, collection is hard work and no one enjoys doing it, but once you have data collected, analysis is really fun. Like, if you said to me, hey, Ivan, can you help